After months of rigorous campaign, Ghana finally gets to go to the polls today, December 7th, to elect a president and parliamentarians as President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the 8th Parliament bring their tenure to an end. And so today we are seated for a comprehensive coverage of the December 7th election. My name is Benefo Boabeni. Welcome to Election Desk. I'll be here with
Patricia.
My name is Apathy. Welcome. We've been waiting for this day.
The day's finally here.
Long been coming. Now we're finally here. After many months, we made it.
And it's going to be how many hours? Well, more like close to 72 hours, if I should say. Yeah.
And we're going to be here until the results are eventually announced by the Electoral Commission. We'll give you all the updates. We'll give you all the stories from the field. We'll bring you the numbers as and when they start coming in. And of course, all the side issues that will happen as well. You get them right here with us on Election Desk here on GhanaWeb TV. So don't go anywhere. And you know, this is an election mania that is a crucial one.
Very.
And also
the stakes are high.
Very, very high because of the leading candidates. We have a sitting vice president going up against who? A former president. I mean, what do you expect?
It's going to be an interesting one, actually. If you follow the campaigns, you notice that the stakes are high. Of course, there have been a number of elections. I mean, after every 4 years, you see a bit of a difference in the campaign. And so you notice how people are campaigning, the promises. There have been a number of promises. So you sit and analyze and ask yourself whether these are just, just make the promise and see whether the people will buy into it, or it's something that you really would want to do for the country. But at the end of the day, the electorate get to decide from now till, it's 6:42 till 5 p.m. when polls close, and then the sorting and balloting counting will begin. And we have our reporters across the country will be giving us reports, up to date, information. And later on, we'll have some insightful conversations with our experts. Dr. Kafui will be here, Abdul Karim Ibrahim, a number of them. We have a number of interviews as well.
Yes.
He's a political analyst.
Yeah.
He's joining us in studio.
We are covered.
Yeah.
We'll be sorted. And
if you want to know the next president, please stick to Ghana.
Yes.
Right. So, how prepared is the EC? There have been a number of issues, from yesterday in the evening. Quite a number of allegations, responses, and all of that. But we had an interview with Dr. Shubo Kweku, who happens to be in charge of training at the Electoral Commission. I had that interview with Eche Atisu, telling us how prepared the Electoral Commission is for this election.
First of all, I know in the last few months, the EC has done a good job trying to get people past the whole idea of the EC not being credible going into the elections, because there's been a lot of talk about whether we can trust the EC. We've gone past that. As we get into the election period itself, what's the biggest concern for the EC? Is there anything like that?
I think I've been saying that the biggest that should concern every Ghanaian is spreading fake news, because if you don't take it, that is what would be our undoing. Because some people can sit somewhere, concoct stories and push them around, and some media houses will also pick it and it will go. If you remember when we did the district assembly election, the local district level election, there were some people who were showing some videos with green jacket, people were starving ballot boxes and the rest. And clearly, if you look at it, you read that it was inside the classroom, but in Ghana, we don't vote in the room. We don't use green jacket. But still people are peddling as part of the issues that took place. So our concern is that truth should always prevail. The media people should be sure of the messages they are, especially when they themselves have not experienced it. So when somebody comes out with any video, whatever, before you carry it out, then you should have done the check and check and check and check. Because they also affect the credibility of the media houses.
Okay. But we've seen a number of media houses actually working around fact-checking. But the EC itself, have you put in any measures to also help with dealing with these kinds of mis and disinformation?
And if you read that with the current administration, there is always a way of releasing presses, getting media engagements, and so there are a lot of engagement, and all this is a way of trying to quell the propensity to misinform and the rest. So we are doing our best. Okay. But we need the cooperation of the media houses.
All right. And then very, very finally, the elections are just some days away. What should everybody be looking out for? How do we ensure that we are all playing our part to make sure that this election comes out, as we say, free and fair?
Free and fair election is a collective responsibility. The voter has a role to play. The media has a role to play. The electoral commission has a role to play. The civil service have their role to play. The judiciary have their role. So if everybody plays its role very well, then we can ensure the stability that we are talking about. One of the stakeholders alone cannot ensure free and fair election unless all of them collaborate and pursue it. But we should always remember that we have only one Ghana.
There's a very, very final one. The issue about calling elections. We've had instances in the past where certain media houses, because we're also gathering data from the field, we seem to be the ones to point people in the direction of something. What would you say about such a situation?
If you are projecting that we out of the 41,000, you've gotten about 100, and the way trend is going, it is possible that to go this way. We have not declared results. But we should be decisive that, this party has won. That is the danger. Because if you say that this party has won and the facts don't support it, it creates a problem. You understand? So if you are doing projection, that's well and good. But don't be specific that at the end of the day, the election is done, Kofi Mensah has won. It's not your responsibility.
Okay.
If you know, wait for the return officer to do it.
Are you prepared for the polls? Everything set?
More than prepared. You can see from the environment, and if you go to our website, I think it's, I always say that this will be the best election in the history of the country.
So the EC is relaxed?
You can see from me. Very, very relaxed, because you know what we have put in place, but we need the support of everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Had with the head of training at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Shribo, who says that this will be the best election in the history of the country. And he also mentioned that free and fair election is a collective responsibility. Do your part, let me do my part. Let the EC do its part, the security agencies. So at the end of the day, if everyone follows the rules of the game, we'll have a free and fair election. And indeed, Ghana is the only country that we have, and we need to do our possible best to protect the country.
We all need to play our role. The media, the security personnel, the political candidates, everybody has to play their role. Not one thing the IGP said the last time was warning the political parties to ensure that they do not bring in macho men. You know, mostly they bring in the macho men to
intimidate people, snatch the ballot boxes. Yeah.
Those with the Okada moving around and all that. I believe this time around security is going to be very tight. Yeah.
I'm sure today is going to be the day that a lot of motorbikes will be,
especially when the roads are going to be as clear as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that for the EC, and I'll go back to our interview, because you realize the first question I asked Dr. Kweku was about the integrity of the EC, and this is something that for a long time has been a big concern, whether or not this EC is credible and trustworthy enough for the elections. And it goes back to all the conversations around the EC itself. You know, some of the appointments around the EC, the people who have been appointed and all the tags that have been alluded to them. Some, they say, well, they are political people. So all these things came in as a major thing. And I think that's the election management body, it's important that you don't go into such a major election with such a heavy tag of politicking or bias around.
But would that ever change? Because I mean, if you look at the history of the commission and how they are appointed, yes. So at the end of the day,
this is bound to happen.
Exactly.
Because the government in power appoints the EC. So the opposition will always say you're in bed with them.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, even though you might be towing the right path, they'll always have a problem. And the opposition will always have a problem. They'll always tag you as the bad one. You're in bed with a governing party, and all the negativity.
You know, so already, John Mama is just between last night and this morning.
He made a post.
He made a post calling out the EC and actually pointing people to the fact that the EC is in bed with the government. And that's serious because this is just hours before the polls are beginning. And
it was the same thing. It was the same thing during his era when Charlotte was the EC, was a commissioner. It was the same thing. NPP also said the same thing. That the party, the NDC was in bed.
There has to be a bigger conversation on how the appointments are made. Yes, so that at the end of the day, probably we don't have a president appointing the EC because it's more like because you are in power, you appoint someone. But I mean, for those who may not have seen, HM made mention of former President John Dramani Mahame's social media post last night, and he's for those who have not seen it, he says with less than 24 hours to go, it has become obvious that the Electoral Commission is determined to aid the ruling New Patriotic Party to rig the elections, but they will fail because the people of Ghana are determined to vote for change and protect their ballots. Since Thursday night, the National Democratic Congress has reported several cases of exposed validating stamps to the Commission, yet they have refused to issue a clear and unambiguous directive to stop their staff from disclosing the identities and details of the validating stamps ahead of tomorrow's general election. Such an exposure allows the party that has printed fake ballot papers to produce similar stamps to use in order to achieve a semblance of validity. An internal memo of the Commission dated 10th October 2024 gives away their well-calculated plot to aid ballot staffing by exposing the serial numbers of validating stamp before voting day tomorrow. I call on the National Peace Council, religious and traditional leaders, civil society, international community, and the election observer missions to call the Electoral Commission to order. And that was the post.
This is serious.
Yes.
This is serious.
Very.
Look at this. First of all, there is the point about him saying that people are printing fake ballot boxes. Major, first one. These are serious things.
Serious
the former president.
Yes.
Fake. He's making complaints about how the NDC has been trying to reach out to the EC about something that's supposed to be an illegality or not, will not help the process. But they are not getting the needed response from them. And then now he's calling on groups like the Peace Council. These are groups that for a long time we've been calling for these people to also be parts of the conversation. We don't hear too much from these groups. And so if the former president is mentioning people like these, National Peace Council, religious and traditional leaders, CSOs, and making allegations of people printing fake ballot boxes. No, papers. Sorry. Those are not good for all of us. And these are things that I think that the EC should have been addressed. And I have not seen so much from the EC in terms of responses to some of these things. The best they'll do is issue statements when they feel like. And I think that these are some of the things that should be addressed. Otherwise, look, elections are just about to start. We're just a few minutes for polls to begin. It could just not help so much.
You know, one thing too, the AC, I believe, cannot be responding to every allegation. They'll just jump
this is
on.
major.
This is coming
Understand,
from
but with that, they'll just
president
make it
who-
one and then say this election is going to be free and fair, credible and transparent. Like trying to answer everything.
No, but Teresa,
at once.
that does not address
You see,
I understand that it doesn't address, but we will not get them.
No, but
to be responding to some of
that's
these
where the
things.
issue is. In fact, let's state that the EC came out with a schedule. So they will have a press conference at 9, at 12, at 3, at 6, at 9 p.m. So this morning, 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and then 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Now, I'm sure they will respond to some of these allegations, but I think that, from the time that the post was made up until now, there should have been a response of a sort. Even if you have scheduled a press conference at 9 a.m. I just went on the EC's social media handle, and the post that is there, the recent post, is urging people to go and vote at 7. But of course, we'll come back to
ignoring the ex-presidents.
We can't say they are ignoring. Probably they've not seen it.
Oh, I'm surprised they haven't responded. Oh, come on. It's social media. I'm surprised you type.
President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo addressed the nation yesterday as Ghana goes to the polls. So let's watch what the president said, and we'll come back for a conversation on that as well.
Fellow Ghanaians, I've come into your homes again this evening because tomorrow, Saturday, December the 7th, we shall be going to the polls to elect a new President of the Republic and members of the 9th Parliament to run the affairs of the country, since I have come to the end of my constitutionally sanctioned tenure of office as President, as has also the 8th Parliament. This will be the 9th successive time we shall be discharging this sacred civic duty of voting to choose our leaders since the onset of the Fourth Republic 32 years ago. It gives me great joy that we now have generations of young Ghanaians who take elections and voting to choose our leaders as a regular, commonplace part of life. Indeed, they take it for granted. That surely is a sign of a nation that has attained maturity and self-confidence and should give us reason to be proud. It gives me great personal satisfaction to have been part of those who fought of us to achieve this right. But we should never forget that the flame of freedom needs to be protected and constantly refueled. Elections are at the heart of a democracy, and we qualify to be counted amongst mature democracies after 8 successful elections. It is not surprising that our country is held up as a beacon of democratic stability in Africa. We should be justly proud of this and do everything we can to protect and uphold this status. As is usual with us, the campaign period has been characterized by colorful, loud, and intense activities all over the country. But that period is over, and I believe the arguments have been made and the messages have been delivered. We've also had a last quiet day of reflection before the polls open tomorrow morning. We have good reason to be proud of the Electoral Commission, the body that is charged with running our elections. Today, it is a much more efficient and transparent institution that we are all ready to entrust with the responsibility of delivering a free, fair, and transparent election that will truly reflect the will of the people.
They are going to have the I mean, the polling center is in a school, and they were queuing over there. It's such a long queue, and so the driver was like, I'm muna. So I asked him, "That sounds so nice," you know.
I think Tina has just joined. Hello, Tina. Okay. Like in the place.
Okay, I don't believe we have it.
Hello, Tina.
Hi, Patricia.
Yeah. So what's the general mood at the polling station? Are people anxious or energized or anything? What's actually happening? We can see that they are queued. There's a queue there, waiting for them to start the ballots. Am I right?
Right.
People are ready to cast their votes. Can you tell me? Have you spoken to some few people?
Yes, so they were here very early at 5 and 6 a.m. However,
Can you walk to some few people and speak to them? Hello, Tina. If you can hear me, can you kindly move to some of the people and speak to them?
and up to now, the started.
But I hope we will very start very soon.
So, what time did you come here to join the queue? To join the queue around half 6. However,
The officials, why haven't they started the voting at that center yet?
speak to me on camera.
Station.
Hello, can
Hello, Tina.
Yes, I can now hear you.
Place to ensure a smooth process.
And Estina, if you can hear us, we want to find out what the security situation is like there. Have you seen any measures put in place to ensure that security is also at the center to ensure a smooth process?
Well, personally, I have
Colleague Tina Asante reporting live from Dome Kwabenya Constituency. Eche Nabrantepa, I think, I don't know, maybe the EC didn't.
It looks like the
They didn't get there early for the people to start. And I'm wondering if you're starting, it's past 7.
Yeah.
What time are they going to start? And what time, because voting is supposed to end at 5. And what time are they going to start? Dome Kwabenya is a big place.
Yeah.
And that's at this time 7.
Well, let's see. Probably there was a genuine challenge, and of course, we hope that they are able to, check any setback. As we saw, they were fixing the tents,
Yeah.
but I don't think that is the tent that is causing the delay,
No,
because
at all.
They didn't get on time.
probably the
Yeah.
logistics delayed.
You could read
so-
from the faces of some of the people that are actually not happy.
Yeah.
People
Exactly,
they look
because
they look
like I
frustrated.
said, if you went to the polling station around 5 when I was
5
coming
yeah,
here,
as
hoping
you
that
said, yeah.
you vote at 7
And then go back
you can
home.
go back home
Yeah.
or go to the market, wherever you want to be. And at the end of the day, they are delaying you. 7:11. By the time they start, probably 7:30, and the delay will cause an inconvenience to you.
And people have other things they would do, actually. Well, anyway, that's a Destina from Dom Kwabenya, one of the biggest constituencies in the country. We'll move from there to also West Wuogon, where I have our colleague Isaac. Isaac Dadzi is reporting from Ayawaso West Wuogon. Also another very interesting constituency. Isaac, very, very major hotspot. Isaac, if you can hear us, how are things panning out at your constituency this morning? Isaac? Hello, Isaac. If you can hear me, I wanted to find out, you are at Ayawaso West. If you could mute Isaac and let's hear you. Kindly unmute. Let's hear you. What's happening at Ayawaso West Wuogon?
Anyway, whilst we wait for...
But I mean, Ayawaso West Wuogon is like I mentioned, it's a hotspot.
Yeah.
You have Madam Lydia Alasan and John Dumelo. We saw what happened at the
Special
during
voting.
the special voting, yeah.
And even before the special voting exercise, when the campaign was going on, you could feel some sort of tension between the two, because at any moment, one person and you see in 2020,
Yeah.
the gap was very close. I mean, it was a heated contest, and what happened during the special voting has also, put some spotlight on the constituency. I would say has more of the attention has
Yeah.
been there, even though it was there that people were expecting a lot of there were high anticipation and all that. The special voting exercise made heightened the tension over there. So it's going to be a very interesting one. John Dumelo hopes to unseat Lydia Al-Hassan, and Lydia Al-Hassan wants to be retained.
Isaac is back, so let's
Yeah.
just get back to Isaac and then see if this time we get lucky. Isaac, can you hear me, Isaac?
Hi, can you hear me?
All right, Isaac, if you can hear me, I wanted to find out, you are at Ayawaso West Wuogon. What's the situation like there? Are people in queues? Can you see people in queues there? What have they told you? Isaac, it will be really nice to hear from some of the electorates there. If you could just approach some of them and see if you can get them to speak to you. Want to hear from them up front, whether or not quickly how they feel, what's the feeling like, because you mentioned people have been in the queues for a while, since 5 a.m. So if you could just get close to some of them, let's see if we can pick their thoughts quickly and what they think about the delay and how anticipated they are for the elections. So if you could just approach some of them, it will be really nice to hear from them. Finally, before I let you go, what's the security situation like? I also West Wogon is one of the places where we know in the past there have been incidences. What's the security like where you are? Wogon. Isaac, stay safe out there, and we'll come back to you much later.
There's a delay in those two constituencies that we've picked so far. They are
so
all
far.
not ready
I wouldn't be surprised if there is a delay
across the
yes,
country.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
I don't know if
Barbara.
if we have Barbara on the line. Hello, Barbara. Unfortunately, we are unable to. Yes, maybe we will reconnect. But Barbara is reporting from Medina. Hello, Barbara. If you can hear us, how are things going at Medina?
And currently,
has not begun. What reason has been given for the delay? That's fine. So what's the mood like? Tell us the mood. Which polling center are you? Barbara, we'll come to you for another update. Thank you. That's reporter Barbara reporting from Medina. And that's also another interesting constituency. Yeah.
She mentioned there are people in the queues without their voters' ID cards, but they will still be allowed. That's important to let people know, because there's been miscommunication out there that without your voters' ID card, you cannot vote. But we've gotten to know that that's not the case. As long as you are verified, when you get to the center and your name is in the booklet and your picture can be verified, that's all.
I believe there will be a form of ID to show, because you cannot just go empty-handed like that.
I don't think so. Your picture and your name is enough, because you wouldn't just walk into any polling center and be able to vote. You need to know exactly where it is. So if you walk into a polling center that is not your polling center and you ask for them to allow you to vote and they don't find your initials or your details there, then that's where it becomes problematic. But as long as you know where you're voting, then you go there. As long as your face can be verified, your name can be verified, you can be allowed to vote. So people who are out there, if you've actually you are worried or concerned that you can't find your voter's ID card, don't worry about that too much. Go to the polling center. As long as you are sure that that is where you vote, please go out and just join the queue. When it's your turn, you'll be allowed to vote. So that's an important information we must let people out there know. But just quickly, I want to know. Now, these are a number of places we've gone to already. Should we be rethinking the 7 a.m. starting time? Because
I doubt, because this is like this is the third place that voting has still not started. Dome Kwabinya, Ayawaso West,
Medina,
and then Medina. I don't know about the other places, but as we promised our viewers, we bring a live update from all the polling stations across the country. We're hoping that by now it's 7:25. Other places should have started.
I mean, we don't say it's normal, but there's, delay in the start of voting has always been a thing.
If it delays now, are they still going to stick to the 5 p.m.?
No, so what happens is that if you are in the queue and it's 5, you'll be allowed to vote. But if you come and it's 5 o'clock, you won't be allowed to vote. That's the rule.
Okay,
yes.
Then that's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
Okay.
Okay, so we have George AEC from Ningo-Prampram, reporting from Ningo-Prampram. Hello, George, if you can hear me. What's happening in Ningo-Prampram?
Anglican school, police stations here, everything is so far on my way. And if you can see from my short look, voting, voters are already casting their vote. I even have good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Your name is?
I'm Ebenezer Abi.
When did you get here?
I got here around 4 o'clock.
And how did the process go?
Oh, it's well. The process is well. The Prophet Madras came here on time. He came here on time because I was here in the materials were brought.
What informed your decision to arrive that early 4 a.m.?
My decision to arrive early is to monitor exactly what is happening.
And you are impressed with the process?
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
This is just the beginning of the process. What are your expectations for the rest of it?
My expectation is that everything should go well now and after a day.
Thank you. So, Patricia, you just heard from a voter what's here as early as 4 a.m. to cast his vote, and he's already done. He's already done. I'm going to engage another voter who has also said please vote. And your name is?
My name is Asafete.
You are one of the few people who have casted their vote early. How early did you get here?
No, this is
Not busy.
so I got here around 6:30.
Talking about the place not being busy, what was the previous experience at this police station?
Once the police stations are we have 4 polling stations. Every polling station it makes the thing easy.
But talking about how smooth process is.
It's so smooth. I went to vote in downtown. Vote inside. When I got there, I mentioned my name. And my name is I was very excited after voting.
Are you intending to do that?
I have to come here. I have to be monitored. I have to be far away from the police station.
Patricia, I don't know if you can hear me, but would you want to have my questions?
Please come again. I didn't get that.
Do you have any questions for our voter here? He just casted his vote, actually. Mr. Tete.
Oh, okay.
What's his impression of the arrangements? I think that would be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
What's his impression of the arrangements at the center?
Your impression of it?
Oh, that's what I said earlier. It's cool because everything is smooth. You have 7 polling stations. So when I was in the queue, somebody said, why is it that this time there's no queue? I told the person, see that now the station has been vacated. We have our 7 polling stations. Everybody, if it should be 2 or 3 polling stations, there will be a queue. But right now the queue here is, but people are not coming.
How is security like at Prampram, Ningo-Prampram?
Come again.
Yeah, Ningo-Prampram.
Yes, I'm at Ningo-Prampram. Prampram itself proper, Anglican school, Prampram. And from what I'm gathering here, this place used to be a very big, it has always been a very big polling center. And because of that, there used to be a lot of crowding in terms of voters getting to cast their vote. And the ECC that has actually split or created a lot of polling stations here. So like Mr. Tete was telling me earlier, usually he would have to spend a lot of time in the queue, but having arrived here today with the creation of 7 separate polling stations, he was quick to cast his vote, and he deems the process very smooth. As a matter of fact, he says he didn't bring his voter ID card, but then he was able to cast his vote.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Abrantepa.
Yeah. So Ningo-Prampram is one of the interesting constituencies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes,
it used to be E.T. Mensah, and you know Sam George was seen as the son of E.T. Mensah, and when he won that election,
The son who ousted his father.
he had to retire him.
Yeah. And before that, E.T. Mensah had held the seat for 2 decades, and then Sam George came. So Sam George is actually seeking his third. So he's done 2 terms. He's seeking his third, hoping to tell the MPP that, look, this is our constituency, so you better sit somewhere. And he's being contested by Michael Tete, who happens to be the candidate for the NPP. We hope to see how things will turn out.
But the good thing is, with Prampram, they started their vote early, and people were there as early as 4 a.m.
You see, that's why I said earlier, there are instances where for the delay in logistics and all that, there will be a delay in the start. But there are places where everything would go as planned. So it's too early for anyone to
immediately conclude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of these things, they are. I don't want to say they are normal, but no.
I mean, they shouldn't be normalized at all.
Exactly. So,
we shouldn't even normalize them. But it's good that people are voting without their cards. I love that whole thing, so that it beats down all the worries, all the anxieties of on whether or not you can cast votes at all. So it's good that we have evidence of people who have actually gone there and they've already cast their votes without having to show their voter's ID card.
Okay, so if we do not have any caller now, let's move back to our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is calling on all Ghanaians to uphold the nation's hard-earned democratic values.
Fellow Ghanaians, I've come into your homes again this evening because tomorrow, Saturday, December the 7th, we shall be going to the polls to elect a new President of the Republic and members of the 9th Parliament to run the affairs of the country, since I have come to the end of my constitutionally sanctioned tenure of office as President, as has also the 8th Parliament. This will be the 9th successive time we shall be discharging this sacred civic duty of voting to choose our leaders since the onset of the Fourth Republic 32 years ago. It gives me great joy that we now have generations of young Ghanaians who take elections and voting to choose our leaders as a regular, commonplace part of life. Indeed, they take it for granted. That surely is a sign of a nation that has attained maturity and self-confidence and should give us reason to be proud. It gives me great personal satisfaction to have been part of those who fought of us to achieve this right. But we should never forget that the flame of freedom needs to be protected and constantly refueled. Elections are at the heart of a democracy, and we qualify to be counted amongst mature democracies after 8 successful elections. It is not surprising that our country is held up as a beacon of democratic stability in Africa. We should be justly proud of this and do everything we can to protect and uphold this status. As is usual with us, the campaign period has been characterized by colorful, loud, and intense activities all over the country. But that period is over, and I believe the arguments have been made and the messages have been delivered. We've also had a last quiet day of reflection before the polls open tomorrow morning. We have good reason to be proud of the Electoral Commission, the body that is charged with running our elections. Today, it is a much more efficient and transparent institution that we are all ready to entrust with the responsibility of delivering a free, fair, and transparent election that will truly reflect the will of the people. I urge all of us to cooperate with the electoral officials to do their work and ensure that we can all be proud of having added another notch to the list of successful elections we have held. The security agencies, led by the police, have also made all the relevant deployments and preparations that will guarantee the peace, law, and order of the nation prior to, during, and after the election. Let us all cooperate with them to ensure that the election is conducted in an atmosphere devoid of intimidation and violence. Let us go and cast our ballots in peace and dignity and in an environment of tolerance and mutual respect. Please remember that we have a reputation to maintain as a nation of peaceful elections and to cement our ranking as a developed democracy. Each one of us should go out and do his or her duty to ensure a peaceful and prosperous Ghana and vote freely for your preferred candidate. Do this in peace and dignity. It is an individual and collective responsibility. Go and vote. You owe it to Ghana and to yourself. I thank you for your attention, and may God bless us all and our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong.
And that was the President John. Sorry, that was the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo urging all of us to go out there and vote. He says we are supposed to protect the flame of freedom. I don't know why I can stop.
What name were you? John?
No. Please forgive me. We'll come back to the president's speech. But before then, my colleague Stella Sogli is at Kole Klote, and she joins us live. Hello, Stella. Stella, if you can hear me, kindly tell us what's happening at Kole Klote. Can Stella hear me? Okay, so whilst we wait for Stella, the president was admonishing everyone that we need to go out there and vote, as well as whilst you're voting, make sure we create an atmosphere devoid of intimidation and violence, and that's one important thing. Like We need to protect the peace we have. We need to protect our democracy. We just need to go out there, vote, as you said, finish and go back home. You don't need to stay there trying to intimidate others, all in the name of protecting your political party.
Well, I think it's a good call, but you know, people have different reasons for which they will decide not to vote. And it's much ado about nothing. You know, some people may have lost confidence in politicians, and so they may think that whether I vote or not, whoever comes, they will do the same thing. And so why should I even waste my time going be in the queue and vote? And there is a video of one gentleman that we spoke to some few days ago who was, I mean, it's not something that we encourage, vote buying. But if you listen to what he was saying, he is selling his vote
for 1,000 Ghana
cedis.
cedis.
So if you want, come and pay, and then I'll go and vote for you. And the question is, how long will it take you to spend 1,000 cedis? But in as much as it will be inconsequential to you, for him, that's a lot of money. And he thinks that whether he votes or not, whoever comes to power, the narrative will not change.
It doesn't change anything.
So,
he remains
yes,
the same.
I think that what politicians should be doing is to have the interests of the electorate, of the Ghanaian people at heart, so that you come out with policies, you enact laws that will benefit them. You do projects, you create jobs. Yes.
When it comes to campaign, they go there.
Yes.
They go to the grassroots and convince them with all the sweet messages. But at the end of the day, when they come into power, more or less like they forget them.
Exactly. And
that's why somebody can now stand there and say, I'm selling my vote for 1,000 Ghana cedis.
It's not about NPP, it's not about NDC. That's that has been the case, you know. So the focus should be making the lives of the people better. When it gets to that point, then we know that, okay, I need to vote. Because when people lose interest in elections, if the apathy level is high, we should look at the root causes. If I have voted for over 2 decades and then I am not seeing any change, each and every time nothing has changed, the roads are bad, and you say I should go and vote again. I mean, the person have better things.
I experienced that a lot when I went to Afram Plains. But before we continue with that, let's get back to Stella. Stella Sogli is at Kole Klote. Stella, if you can hear me, did the polling station open on time, and were there any reports of logistics, logistical issues?
Hello, Patricia, if you can hear me. Hello?
Hello, Stella, I can hear you, please.
All right. So thank you very much for having me. I'm currently at the Kole Klote Constituency, the YMCA polling station to be specific. And for all the people who have joined the queue and have decided to cast their votes this morning have been able to do so. The process started as early as 7 a.m. and there has been no issue whatsoever. From the beginning, they had some slight challenges with the verification machine, but that was sorted out as quickly as possible, and the people have had the opportunity to vote. Also, the first person who came here came at 4:30 a.m. And when they came, they were the first person to come. When we got here at 6 a.m., there are about 8 to 10 people in the queue waiting to cast their votes. We spoke to the presiding officer who said they have not been licensed or they've been asked by the Electoral Commission not to grant interviews, but they can speak off camera. Told us that about 735 people are expected to vote today here at this particular location. And he also told us that there are 11 electoral areas in the Kole Klote constituency. Actually, the Kole Klote has one of the parliamentarians that are here in Ghana, she's running the Valentino Ninoy Nati, no, I beg your pardon, Ninoy Noti, and they are running for the parliamentary seat for the Koleklote constituency in 2024. From here, we'll move to other polling stations and check the situation on the ground. But so far, this is what we have. Hello, Patricia.
Stella, if you can hear me, have you spoken to any of the voters so far for them to share their experiences?
Yes, I have. Yes, we've spoken to a number of them, and their response has been positive. All of them have said that they are very happy with the process, and their expectations have been met. They've been able to cast their votes since the process began, and they had no challenge whatsoever.
So far at Koleklote?
Over here, the Koleklote constituency, the mood is quite serene. Everybody is conducting themselves as they should, and they are able to cast their votes accordingly. Nobody has. One person told us that when he came, there was an issue about who was here first and all of that, but they were able to understand each other, and peace has been able to reign. Before the start of the polls, the presiding officer urged everybody to exercise patience and just conduct themselves in a peaceful manner to ensure that the process is as smooth as possible. And so that's what we have currently.
Have you spotted any security personnel there?
Yes, there's one lady from the Ghana Police Service. And yes, and whenever anyone has an issue, they draw her attention, and that is solved as well.
Thank you very much, Stella. We'll come back to you as and when there is any update. And that was my colleague Stella Sogli reporting from Koleklote. Yes, I'm back to
the constituency of Zaneto,
Yeah.
Ajiman Rawlings, and that's the oldest daughter of the late former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, and that's a constituency where, well, you don't hear so much, but she seems to be a tower house in that constituency. When you speak to people on the ground, it's not such a loud, chaotic place of the sort. But when you speak to people, they tell you, oh, the MP is doing quite a bit. And I don't know if I heard right from Stella, but it seems there are two women who are running for the seat there, one Valentina or so, and then Zaneto. That means that that's two women running for the seat, and that's going to be an interesting thing. Let's see how it turns out there, whether she's going to return to Parliament. I think this should be her third or fourth time, also trying to get back in Parliament. So, yeah, very interesting. At least we've been able to cover a few constituencies in the Greater Accra, and we'll actually bring you reactions from across the country as well. For now, we'll get you the situation in Greater Accra. When later in the day, we'll give you also updates from other parts of the country, because this is a national election and the elections are going on across the country. So we'll go to other regions as and when we can to also give you those. And also, like Benefo mentioned earlier, we'll bring you some expert analysis of all that's going on. We'll pick interviews as and when they happen, because at 9 a.m. the EC is expected to actually give us an update.
Yeah.
So stick and stay. This is where you get all the updates. Especially if you're online, this is where you get all the updates. So stick with us. This is Election Desk. We'll bring you all of the details.
Right. So we will soon come to you for the contenders for the presidential seats, if I should say. But we've been asking our people the state of security wherever they've been to, and the police has been talking. We have the police public affairs the head, speaking to the country about how the police is prepared for this election.
So far, the National Election Security Task Force has engaged various stakeholders as we work to ensure a peaceful elections. As we were deploying our men for their various duty points, we briefed them adequately on their roles and responsibilities. This evening, we wish to remind all Ghanaians, especially those who are going to vote, that is, qualified voters, of their responsibilities as far as the electoral process is concerned. And I would like to take this opportunity to remind us of a few of these things so that we are all cautious going into the polls tomorrow. First, we wish to entreat all voters to come freely to their polling stations with voter ID cards and join the queue if at the time they get there are any. Voters should collect their respective presidential and parliamentary ballot papers after biometric verification from the polling assistant. They should check whether the issued ballot paper has no mark and has a validated stamp if required. Every person is to vote once at the appropriate voting booth for their preferred presidential and parliamentary candidate. After voting, the voter should leave the voting or polling station immediately after the vote is cast. All voters should respect other voters' right to vote for a candidate of their choice. Voters may return to the polling station at 5 p.m., that is at close of poll, to observe the counting of the ballots. We wish to urge all voters to avoid jumping the queue, which may lead to some misunderstanding. We wish to entreat every person. Let us abide by these rules and comport ourselves in such a manner that the electoral process will proceed peacefully. And once again, be assured that our security officers will be on hand to ensure everything goes on as planned.
A lady. It actually turns out it's a gentleman. His name is Valentino. Okay. All right.
So contested in 2016 as an independent candidate.
All right.
Yeah, and lost. So in 2016 it was Zaneto and then Philip Kojo Ado Addison.
Yeah.
So Zaneto polled 33,609 votes. And whilst Addison polled 29,122 votes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're moving on. And signing of peace. Okay, before we do the signing, let's talk about what the Director of Public Affairs for the Police Service, encouraging people on the rules, the do's and don'ts.
At the polling stations and all of that, yes. I think that it's one thing that people have been, a lot of people have been advocating.
Yeah.
We need to ensure that at the end of the day we'll have a peaceful election. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to play your part. I also need to play my part. Mostly when at the early hours of the election day, it's quite calm. The tension tends to build up when polls are about to close. And that's when people go to the polling center to observe. And sometimes they, for whatever reason, there could be some bit of commotion here and there. But
I think it's because of the anxiety that's setting, because everyone is hoping that, I believe the candidates that I voted for will be winning.
Yeah.
And I need to ensure that the EC officials,
Okay.
yeah, everyone wants to ensure that whoever they voted for, the parliamentary candidates and the presidential candidates, are not robbed. No ballot paper is moved to, is given to the wrong person. So that anxiety comes in and it makes them
Well,
a bit.
and there's one thing that we all need to observe. So we are voting for a president
Yeah.
and a parliamentarian.
Yeah.
But there are instances where people could make a mistake. And instead of dropping the presidential ballot paper in the presidential ballot box, they tend to put it in the parliamentary. So sometimes when polls have ended and they have counted the ballots, let's say they started with presidential, they are done. They go to parliamentary, and then you notice that one of the papers for presidential is in the parliamentary ballot box. They have to bring it back. And you see, this is where we need to be very careful so that let's get the figures right from the ones that the officers have signed, polling agents have signed. That is what has been certified.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so that you see, that's when people think that, oh, some figures have been changed. There could be other ways by which people will find, their own ways to do whatever they want to do. But I mean, this is an education that we need to let people know. And to avoid that, ensure that you put the ballot paper in the respective box.
Yeah.
And fold your paper the right way, so that even if the ink is too much, it will end on the forehead. It will end on the forehead of your preferred candidate. Right. So we are told that there is news at Ayawaso West Wogon Constituency. Our reporter Isaac Dazi is there to bring us up to speed. Ike, what's happening?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? I'm talking, can you hear me? Okay, hi. So this is Isaac from the Ayawaso constituency, where the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, I just paid a courtesy call to the Labalation Polling Center, both A, B, and C. So he is basically going around and cross-checking the voting processes, as well as greeting and communicating with some of the polling station officials and other observers who are present at the polling center now. Basically, it should be there to know that the Labalation Polling Center has basically had a peaceful election. Election voting actually started at 7:20 a.m., basically a few minutes after I got a call with you. So the voting process has been peaceful so far. We still have some voters waiting patiently in queue as the voting process is ongoing. Now we have the former president who just currently taking his leave of the premises. Let me see if I can connect with him and have a little chit chat with him. Oh, he's about to address the media, so let's see if we can join him. Yes, addressing the media.
That's what you're asking for everybody. Okay.
Your Excellency, first of all, welcome to Ghana. And I've told you you started from about 2 polling stations, and you are at the 3rd one now. First, tell us your general impression since you've been here about our electoral process so far, then we get to the specifics.
Thank you so much. This is quite a unique day, not only for Ghana, but for West Africa and indeed the rest of Africa. As you see that all the observer missions are led by very senior citizens of the continent. So you should know that the whole continent is interested in the elections in Ghana. And Ghana is a good example of a democracy in West Africa and indeed the rest of Africa. And we believe that Ghanaians maintain that position. They will not deviate from that. So today is a unique day. We've been on the time, even up to today. We've seen quite a number of places. We visited the train stations, but this national train so total is about 9 places. So far, voting is going on commendably. We just believe that is maintained the whole day. Some places those are very short. This is reasonably long, but this one we are seeing. I would believe that it's still quite early. I would believe that the turnout before midday will be quite high. We wish Ghanaians well, and we are pleading and calling everybody from our country. See, you want to take a decision, you must play a role in electing your leaders, their ballots. You must speak for yourself. You cannot stay at home and complain that government has done this, government did not do this. Come and exercise your right to select your leader. And I believe Ghanaians are known for that. They will do just that.
I mean, with what you've seen so far, being the election day, a lot of things happen on election day. Do you have that assurance that with the peaceful nature you've seen so far, will maintain that during the course of today until the final result is declared?
We're hopeful that it will maintain. So far, we've not heard of any untoward behavior, even from the voters or from other people. We only pray and hope that we maintain this whole day. But it's too early to make a concluding statement. So we also ask questions, ask people who are in other parts of the country. But so far, no, it was conduct.
How did you and team zero down on the specific constituency?
Hi, can I talk now?
We are not technically election observers. We don't issue reports. We are here to see that there are no crises. That is the main thing that we was elders. If there are issues, join the stakeholders to deal with issues. So we don't push people into the hinterland. So we cannot make comprehensive statements about elections until we meet with the ECOWAS observers. I think that meeting will be, or meet with the AU observers, meet with the Commonwealth observers. That will have an idea about what goes on in the whole country.
You were in Ghana before the polls. You met with the Electoral Commission, met with political parties. You're here on the day of the polls. Will you say things have improved from the time you came here, the concerns that you heard, and from your engagements with various stakeholders?
Yes, when we came here in October, 7th, 8th October, we were here to engage with stakeholders. We met with the security group headed by the General Police, made up of the police, the army, the immigration, the fire service, the customs, the prisons, so on. We met with the Electoral Commission, chairman and senior officers of the commission. We met with the political parties and principal candidates, NPP and NDC. We met with the civil society, and the issues were the candidates raised some concerns. The civil society took up the matter with security agencies. joint executive was headed by the IGP, and also with the drug commission, led by the chairperson of the commission. And all those issues were addressed. The gray areas promised. We believe that this is sorted out because we've been asking questions from those who are conducting the election. And so far, both the agents of the political parties and the electoral commission officials are comfortable with the procedure going on. So we believe that all those areas are sorted out. The key
Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, Isaac Dazi there. Before we went to have that, conversation, we're talking about the peaceful election and all that. We had the police public affairs, head of police public affairs, making some statements about peaceful election. And there was a signing of a peace accord, peace pact, so we take that video if that video is ready.
The signing of the Peace Pact marks an important building block in our nation's development. The very act of signing the Peace Pact is symbolic in that it signals to all citizens and supporters of our presidential candidates that they are indeed committed to ensuring that Ghana remains intact before, during, and after the election. It also symbolizes that our presidential candidates have put Ghana first before their own interests and aspirations. As a commission, I'm pleased to note that we have walked the talk of peace, mindful of the fact that attaining peaceful electoral outcomes will depend on our actions. We have right from the start of our electoral processes consciously operated and carried out our activities and conducted ourselves in a manner that would ensure peace before, during, and after the election. We have embraced three essential ingredients, which in our view contribute to peaceful processes and elections, namely transparency, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. And we have applied these elements in all our activities to date.
On behalf of my colleagues at the National Election Security Task Force, to give you this pledge, we are committed to ensure that we take our constitutional mandate of ensuring that there is peace, security, law, and order for the rest of the period of the election, the post-election period, and beyond. So that our beloved country, which is the only one that we can come in and out without a visa, will continue to be at peace with itself, because there is no place like home. And with this commitment, we want to let you know that we will not be, and I want to emphasize, we will not be the source or allow ourselves to be the source of any disturbances that will corrupt the peace that we cherish so much. We decided to mainstream election security with the establishment of a permanent department for purposes of managing elections in this country. And by this, I mean all elections, even including school and church elections. So that at the end of the day, election security becomes part of policing and part of security in this country. And this is what we have been able to achieve.
With the signing, we have seen how it helps in steering candidates towards the courts and not to their militant youth. And truly, if you look at 2016 or 2012, 2013, where the court case came on, you look at 2012, we didn't have that problem, but in 2020, we also went through processes. And that the resort to court helps in preventing supporters of the two parties fighting it out in the streets. This simple idea has gained Africa-wide admiration and attention, and some countries have actually adopted it.
From today, I am certain of two outcomes. Ghana will win and peace will reign. We have been here before and can prove again that Ghana is a shining example of a resilient democracy. As we approach the home stretch for the elections 2024, my plea to everybody involved in the electioneering process, including candidates, political parties, electoral officers, voters, the media, security, and the general public, is to take responsibility for ensuring peace and harmony seriously, and to demonstrate that we are not reluctant Democrats. My hope, and that of the MPP, is that we will come out of this election stronger as a nation. We are hopeful all sides will take some positive steps to preserve the unity, peace, and stability of this country. We owe our people, particularly the teeming youth, that duty of care. Only in this way would our resolve to create better and enduring opportunities for the future generations be guaranteed.
We in the NDC remain eternally committed to the building of a peaceful and prosperous country in which the aspirations of all our people can be met. As patriotic citizens, we have a collective responsibility to ensure that our country remains a beacon of peace and stability in our sub-region, and we in the NDC stand prepared to play our parts to achieve this. As citizens, we must recognize that our actions have consequences. While some verbal jousting is to be expected in our daily politicking, divisive language, hate speech, and inflammatory rhetoric that can incite violence should have no place. Temperance, tolerance, understanding, and respect for one another's opinions and beliefs should be the guiding principle upon which our politics is practiced.
Admittedly, democracy goes beyond periodic elections. However, in relatively young democracies like ours, every election presents an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the Constitution and the rule of law. So far, each time we head to the polls, we have passed the test. We have shown that it is possible to rise above our differences and unite for the sake of our country. As we head into the December 2024 polls, the 9th presidential election in Ghana, I am certain of two outcomes. Ghana will win and peace will reign.
The leaders, especially some of the front runners in the elections this year, while they signed the peace accord, and we saw the EC chairperson as well, the Inspector General of Police there as well. We'll pick an interview with a security analyst, Adib Sani. Adib Sani is pitching camp this election season. He's in the north, so we would go to Adib shortly. But guys, the signing of the peace accord, very significant, symbolic occasion, especially because ahead of that, the NDC had been talking about how they were not going to sign any peace accord. Is this going to have any monumental impact on the elections? They've signed the accord on paper.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I am saying so because I want to believe that our leaders meant what they said on their platform, and not just going to be the rhetorics, you know. Vice President says that two things: at the end of the day, Ghana will win and peace will reign. The police is saying that they will not be the source or be used as an instrument for election violence and all of that. So we believe that that's what is going to happen, and so let everyone do their best. But this also comes. I don't know which one was done first, whether the CNN interview, BBC interview, or the peace accord. I'm saying this because you know how production is. Sometimes you can have an interview and you'll be there for a long time, be at the bench, being edited and all of that, And that was a very insightful interview. And you heard the former president, John Dramani Mahama, who is the presidential candidate of the NDC, giving the conditions under which he would accept the election results. And peaceful election was one of the things that he highlighted. And if there is going to be a peaceful election, there is no rigging, there is no intimidation, there is no violence whatsoever. So if everyone is going to do as stated on the podium, I think that we're going to have a peaceful election. And yes, that's the significance of the peace pact.
But that's one arm of the whole conversation.
Yes.
That's for the leaders. How about their followers?
That's why they need to sensitize them. They need to educate them, that at the end of the day, this is what we want. This is what we've gone to say. This is what we have signed. So you need to do your possible best to ensure that you are not the source of the violence. You understand? So, like the police said, they are not going to be the source, and they are not going to be the instrument. So, if everyone is going to do as the police is saying, we will not have the violence at the end of the day. And you see, it's quite significant because I saw a post from Manasseh Azure, an experienced journalist, when the post seemed to be doing a comparison of Ghana's states of election and the call for peace, and then the U.S. and says that U.S. the population is huge, but you wouldn't hear a peaceful song, you wouldn't hear a peaceful message. I mean, the dynamics are different.
Very different.
Funny enough, getting to elections, that is when we get all the peace messages. That is when
because we are in Africa, you would say that it's not supposed to be so. But we have seen what has happened in Somalia. We've seen what has happened in Liberia. We've seen Sudan. So when it gets to this point and everybody is calling for peace, you understand the reason. Yes, we wish that we wouldn't get to this part. I mean, we should go beyond the call for peace, because as Manasseh said, you wouldn't hear the U.S. any musician composing a song, but we've had musicians, all-stars, coming out with songs calling for peace. And
we didn't have all-stars this time.
Yeah, we did.
We did
with the relatively younger folks.
Then I missed it.
Their own rendition of ENRI Assassin.
Don't you think getting to elections, we try to create some fear and panic around the whole thing? So whilst we create that atmosphere, we come up with the peace messages. We need peace. We need to protect our democracy.
I don't think we create.
It actually is.
Look at what the NEC was calling for in the beginning, calling for a forensic audit.
Yes.
So it's like, if you don't do it as I'm requesting, it means you have something to hide.
Yeah. Or you're not being as transparent as possible.
And once there's that level of resistance, for whatever reason the EC will be doing that, the followers could be, there's a perception that they could fall. And that could lead to something. So I don't think that we intentionally create that atmosphere.
Okay.
It's us. Yes, there has to be a change in the narrative. But when the education has not gone to the level that we want, when those at the helm of affairs are not doing things rightly. I'm not saying the EC is not, because as we stated earlier, the opposition is always accusing the EC of not doing things right. We saw Charlotte say, we saw what MPP did when Charlotte say was there, because Charlotte was appointed by NDC. We've seen this as well. We saw what people said when Dr. Aferijan was there. You understand? So we don't create the atmosphere. I think that
it's just something that comes along.
It just comes along with it, and yes, and the fear to lose, and so you would want to do everything possible to ensure that it comes your way.
I also think that, you see, even though you do not actually say, especially the EC aspect. Even though you did not say that, you see, if you don't have the managers of the process being as transparent, as effective as possible, then you're already caught in fear. And people would worry.
Yeah.
We have ballot boxes that are being transported. Before they get there, seals are breaking. Look, the seals on the EC ballot boxes, they are not the seals you see on water bottles that can easily be broken.
Yeah.
These are very robust, firm seals. So imagine a seal like that just gets broken. You'd raise questions around. So these are the things that add up to why people have fears, why there's anxiety, why there are tensions, and all of those things. So it's, well, we can't run away from it. We can't run away too much from it.
Yeah. We're just hoping for a free and fair, credible, transparent elections, devoid of all of these violence. As we said, Ghana is all we have, and Ghana must win.
Yeah.
Peace must reign in Ghana. This is the only country we have. We have nowhere else to go. So please, when you go out there to vote, do the right thing. Don't instigate any kind of violence. Don't try to use your stature to intimidate other people. Yeah.
Yes, but you see, the media has a very huge responsibility.
Yes, it's very true.
In the coverage of the elections. I don't know what your assessment of the media will be in terms of the process so far.
I think we've done quite a good job this year, especially, and this is something I commend the media for, because at least in the last year to the elections, we've had a lot of education going around, especially regarding this whole new craze of misinformation and disinformation. In the past, it would not have mattered. People would not have even realized it. There'll be videos going around, there'll be text messages going around, all kinds of things like that, just to sway people and misinform. Look, we have to mention, there were media houses and that had journalists or people who are constantly on air
who were supposed to do the right
disinformation.
thing.
So these things, but the media has done well in either fact-checking these people, calling them out, or training and reorienting people around the fact that it's not everything you see that is what it is. Because people can plant their own information and put it out there and tell you that this is happening. We've seen videos that would be circulated where if you are not careful to check, you might even realize that the video is not even from Ghana. And these kinds of things. The media has done its bit. I don't think that we are in a position where anyone can say that the media has not helped or we've contributed to much of what we're talking about earlier, the anxiety or the fears. But we have done our part. We've been able to help people appreciate the process and understand that this is just an election. Everyone has a single vote in the end. Well, have just a single vote. That's why I said you have a single vote. You have a single vote. Even the president, your flag bearer, has a single vote. All the campaigning they've done if you don't go out to vote, it would not count.
Yeah.
So the bit about what we have done is to at least help people be as informed as possible. And I think that relatively we've covered that squarely. And what we do on election day also counts.
Yeah.
We're out there. Look, we'll balance the atmosphere. We'll be able to give out details that the EC will not give you. We'll show you things that are happening in places that the EC will not tell you about. We'll give you numbers as and when they come in, how we get them. We will not call the elections. But that's how we also help to make the process as smooth and as transparent as possible. So I think that we've done quite a bit. Maybe you should mark the media over 10.
And one thing I realized about this particular election is that I want to applaud the media for prioritizing, or let's say throwing more light on the policies of these flag bearers. For people to understand that this time around it's not about the slogans and then the songs. You need to look out for. We need to look at the policies and see how best it can help us. So on as you can see on your TV, that Dr. Bawumia is going to cast his vote. He is the one in the white
smoke.
Smoke, yeah.
Is it a smoke anyway?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
With his entourage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such an energy. I mean, well, you see the guides in his streets and everything. I mean, you know, he's giving us some groove there. So I think that so far, I think he is the first candidate
that we've seen so far
going out. So that's the vice president. He's also the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. He's hoping to take over the job. He calls himself a driver's mate. He hopes to take over the job from his president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So that's him going to cast his vote. I think he's casting his vote where? Is he in Bimbala? Where is that? Where is the vice president casting his vote? We'll get that detail for you. We'll check and bring it to you. But so far, like we've just shown you, that's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia going to cast his vote. He's the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. They're actually the party in power now. He's hoping to help his party to achieve what they've been trumpeting of breaking the eight. And it will be the first time, if they're able to achieve that, that any political party has gone beyond the first 2 terms to win a 3rd term. That's what they call the breaking the eight. So 8 years. And if he's able to achieve that,
so he's in Wale Wale.
Okay, so
he's going to cast his vote in Wale Wale, and then Mahama will do his in Bole.
Bole.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Bawumia going to cast his vote. We'll bring you the visuals much later of him casting his ballot there in
when he finally does.
Yes, Wale Wale.
Right.
You know, a funny thought just came to mind. Will Bawumia vote for himself?
Obviously, come on. Obviously, he will vote for himself. I'm not sure he will go vote for his opposition or even Cheddar. I'm not sure he'll do that. He wants to become.
That's a very wild
yeah.
Well, anyway, but that's it. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But after months of campaigning and all that.
Yeah. So before that, we were talking about the role of the media.
The media,
and I think that we, like you said, there have been quite a number of workshops about misinformation, disinformation, and all of that. And Dr. Sugokweku, the head of training at the EC, had said that his greatest fear for the election was misinformation and disinformation and all. And this is the time that you are going to see some videos, mostly it's going to be videos, you know, portraying something that is not true. And if I'm verified, but you see, sometimes the worry is before the verification, maybe the harm may have already been done. So the fear is that it's not the media that will do it, but you know, now in the age of social media, before you realize the thing is already out there. And that's mostly the fear, because by the time you come back to correct and say this was not what it is, you know,
it's already gone.
It's already gone.
Yeah.
But as the media, we are supposed to ensure that whatever we send out there is the truth. And I'm excited about the number of workshops that were organized. I mean, in the last 2 months to the elections, you could see that it was a deliberate effort to organize workshops, to train journalists across the country. The GJA was part, Media Foundation for West Africa was part, fact-checking agencies like Dubawa, fact-check Space, Space Africa, fact-check Ghana, and there's now even a coalition that they're going to have the situation room where they will be fact-checking.
Yes, it's actually there now. When you go to the Media Foundation for West Africa, they've actually put together a coalition of fact-checkers. So they have a situation room. They are there the whole day. Their work is to ensure that they are dealing with as much mis and disinformation that's coming out as possible. And that's very impressive. In fact, when I heard about it, I was quite impressed because in the past, it would have just been some media houses trying to do these things. But this time, they are on hand, and they are working with some of the established fact-checking organizations. So, like you mentioned, Dubawa, Ghana Fact, and all of those things. So that's it. So, as you can see right now on your screens, this is visuals, pictures from Anya Soutum, also in the Greater Accra region. Anya Soutum, you can see people are on benches. Those are actually accused, and so they are actually waiting to vote. You can see those are some ballot boxes. I think that this is just before the election process actually started. This looks quite early, maybe before 7 a.m., but people are ready. Pictures. The anticipation, I don't know whether it's just me, but I've not seen too much of is it that we have a lot of is it that we have a lot of polling centers?
It's early days.
Okay, so that's somebody casting.
It's early days yet. I mean, if I were not doing this, I'm not sure I would wake up early. I would rather go there in the afternoon, somewhere 1. You know, around that time or 2.
Anticipating that by then
the queue would not be long. But if you go there early like this, or maybe from 4 o'clock where you have just an hour for the polls to end, that's when you could have a long queue. So I don't think that the numbers it's something that we should be very much concerned about.
So this is actually Soutum itself. Soutum. Chop bar. Well, that's an interesting name for a polling station.
So Chop Bar polling station.
So those are
after the ballot, you go and chop.
Very interesting. Well, I hope. So what? So this is Soutum itself, as you can see there. People are organizing themselves to go and cast their ballots. But I love the fact that so far we are not hearing.
I think the anger also comes in when you cross another person.
But why do you cross?
Because I was there. that's also caused. That's also causes the frustration.
If you have an emergency, I think the best way to go about it is speak to maybe the officer in charge, who would then speak with the people behind, the people who are supposed to be behind, and let them know that because of ABC,
so
they should pardon you, so you vote. You don't decide that.
No. That's completely wrong.
You don't join the queue and tell the other person there's someone behind me, or there's someone in front of me.
But even those ones,
when it happens like that, maybe your brother or let's say your
But I don't think those ones are much of a problem. People understand.
No. There are some people.
Unless you've been in the queue for how many hours?
And say I am behind this person, I'll be back. Okay. That one could suffice, but you come and say someone is behind me. No. One thing I've not seen, and I've not heard any of our reporters say, is whether or not people went there to queue with stones. In the past, they will go there the night before And some would even sleep at the polling stations.
Yeah.
Some will queue with stones, buckets, or any
Yeah.
objects that
Something
they
that
can
represents-
identify and
yes.
say, this is mine.
And
this
with
is
that,
where I am.
everyone knows that, oh, this belongs to Mr. A, this belongs to Mr.
Yeah,
B.
yeah.
So,
Now-
but even though you are saying that yesterday there was a video from Odio, where around 6 p.m., 6:03, there were people actually in the queues. Yeah, waiting. And so whoever was taking the video was asking, why? What's happening? So, hey, they are very anticipated. They are.
So
they
with that,
can't
when they
wait.
come in the morning, I know that this is behind me, this was in front of me.
But come on, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
What are you doing there?
You have no idea.
That's
You have no idea. We'll join. We'll form the queue
No,
now,
no,
and
no.
early in the morning when we come, I know that Abrantipa is behind me, Eche follows, Rhoda is next, and then Shiloh is next, like that kind of thing.
I don't
And
know
then they
what,
give themselves time that, oh, we should be here by 5.
That, whether it is being the first to vote or...
You know, there's so a
trying-
mindset that the queues will be very long.
Yeah.
But you see, in the past, that was the case. But now I see polling stations having different centers.
That's the point
A couple
again.
of
People
them,
don't know
to
these
make sure
things.
that you don't have a long queue. And that's one thing that we should comment. You don't need to be there at a night before.
People still don't know that
Patriotic
they're not going to
people.
meet long queues. In fact, if you are not careful, you think from the pictures we are seeing that people are not stepping out to vote. You'll be amazed the number of people who have already gone out to vote. But like you have mentioned now, there are more polling centers with more centers. So when you get there, you could be in the same area, but you are in a different place because we have more workers. There are more queues, more places for you to go in. And so just a few hundreds of people will be in one center. And so there's no need to go and be worrying about whether thousands of people, because those days you could stand in queues for hours.
Yeah.
Stand in queues for many hours. Not the type that's happened this morning where people got there from 4 a.m. or something and they voted maybe around 7:30. No, this time you go in maybe around 8 a.m. You might vote after 5 p.m. because the queue is so long. So people maybe are not so aware that now there are more centers, there are more places for you to be able to cast your vote. So these issues of staying up 6 p.m. Look, I'll be sleeping. Well, we're still here, by the way. Anyway, so those are. I think so far we've been able to get enough visuals on what we have a fair idea what's happening at a number of these polling centers, and that's good to hear. We've played our part. Look, I love how everything's going smoothly. We hope that goes through the same way to the end. No basbos. We don't want any chaotic incidences. So,
So at okay.
Okay. So So that's it.
You read. We were talking about the media misinformation and disinformation, and the Media Foundation for West Africa, I mentioned, had been organizing some workshops for journalists and all that. We have an interview, a short one, a very brief interview with Krobia Santi, who happens to be the program officer, senior program officer with the Media Foundation for West Africa.
interview because I want to speak to Adib Sani. Adib Sani is a security analyst. He is also the executive director for Jatike Center for Human Security and Peace Building. He says he's in the north this time, monitoring the elections. Adib Sani, how are you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm well, my brother. Just that there's a lot of echoing in the background. I'm struggling to hear you.
Hello, Adib. Can you hear me?
Yes, but there was an audio playing before you came in. I could hear clearly, but when you came in, the echoing started. I don't know if you can correct that.
Adib, I seem to hear you. If you can hear me, I was asking how you're doing this morning.
Well, I trust you are well too.
Very well, we are here. How is the north? You shared some information with us earlier. Is everything okay where you are?
Yes, I've been doing a lot of rounds. The Jatike Center has mapped out some hotspots within the northern enclave, from Bushegu to Karga to Tomen to Namtong to Yendi. And I had an information from Yendi last night, but I was still very careful. I didn't want to come out with it because I needed to confirm, verify, and double check. And this morning it's been fully confirmed. 1,210 ballot papers are missing in an armory in Yendi. And the ballot papers are presidential ballot papers. And that is very disturbing because the armory is supposed to be the most secured room within the police setup. So if 1,210 ballot papers can be compromised, then surely there's a problem. The bag in which the items were contained in was torn. And already within that armory, we had other election materials, the ballot boxes and the thumb-printed ballot papers that was realized during the special voting. It's also there, it's sealed. But these ones are the new materials that were supposed to be deployed today. Unfortunately, 1,210 of them are missing as we speak. Hello, are you there?
How are they going to resolve that?
Sorry?
How are they going to resolve the fact that there are over 1,200 ballot papers missing? And you said this was in the police armory. How is that possible? How are they going around this now?
Well, it depends on the reputation of the police service, and I would expect the IGP to take it very seriously. Because if an armory can be breached, then what is happening? Because we know who the keys is with a certain officer. So ask the officer questions. Is there CCTV? Playback, let's know. Because obviously, 100%, no denying that fact, there's some level of official complicity in this matter. And I think that is really worrying and has to be looked at critically. But that notwithstanding, the political parties have agreed among themselves to still go ahead with it. But additional protocols will be put in place. But what the resolution fell short of is an investigation, and that is what I find quite unfortunate. So there's a resolution I've had from the area just right now, captioned, Resolution adopted by National Democratic Congress, New Patriotic Party, Electoral Commission in Yendi Constituency on this day, 7 December 2024. The following was agreed. 1. Political parties shall add an additional agent to monitor the election process. 2. Such agents shall be positioned by the presiding officer such that the agent will be able to observe the dropping of thumbprint ballot papers issued by ballot issuers. 3. The appointed agents shall not physically interfere with dropping of ballot papers into the ballot boxes. And 4. The agents may raise any concern if abnormality is detected to the presiding officer in attendance. And this was signed by 2 representatives of the MPP, 2 representatives of the NDC, and 2 representatives of the EC, made up of the returning officer and the district election officer. And in as much as it is good for the process to continue, we need to investigate. The police has to investigate what really happened.
Is the election ongoing? Has the process been halted because of this?
No, it was nearly mad. but it is ongoing as we speak. But investigation would still have to be done to ascertain how 1,210 ballot boxes can go missing in an armory.
You are an analyst on security issues. Generally, beyond this situation at Yendi, what's the kind of atmosphere, security-wise, in that area?
Well, there seems to be a lot of mistrust amongst the various political players. Yesterday, I see a lot of concentration on guest house and hotels because people were suspecting other people were transported in and, made to stay in these facilities. And we also see movements. For example, a lot of buses from Tamale going to Tono. So I don't know, quite obviously people from other places are moving to other places to vote. So there's a lot of this suspicion, and the suspicion has given rise to artificial tension within the atmosphere. But I'm hopeful that in the end it will be peaceful, and whatever it is would reflect the true will of the people.
Places you have been to, you are in Yendi right now. Are there any other places you are going to?
Yes, we've done a lot of work. Let me bring it up from my PC. All right. So, for example, in Colon, we have a number of hotspots that we've identified. We have our people on the ground to keep an eye. For example, DA Primary School, Dundo, then Community Center, Botungle, DA Primary School, Nagilgu, then DA Primary School, Zantani, all in the Tolong constituency. The NCC office at Tolong is also a hotspot. DA Primary School, Yao, Community Center, Baduli, AME Zion Primary School, Panyele, and so many other places that we've identified. In the Yendi constituency, we've identified early primary schools, both Zone 1 and Zone 2. We've also realized that the Yendi police station, of all places, is a hotspot. The Naya Akuba GHS, early primary school, Zagbang. Then we have early primary school, Kulkini, and early primary school, Tusani. In fact, there are so many other places that we have identified as hotspots, and we would wish that the police keep an eye on these places to ensure that the process goes smoothly. We have a number, in fact, we've done a lot of work in all of the constituencies, for example, in the northern region. I mean, from Sabuba to Myong to Kumbungu to Pandai to Karga to Gushegu to Bimbila to Sanargu to Savulgu, etc. And we've identified a lot of these hotspots. We have people on the ground monitoring.
Adi, just because you are here now, let me ask you, ahead of the, today, the EC actually denied your institution and then some other CSOs the right to be able to observe. I know you held a press conference and spoke about how, regardless, you are going to go ahead to do your monitoring. I want to pick your quick thoughts again on that. Did the EC reach back to you after you came out? Anything like that? Is there any update you want to share with that about that process being truncated because the EC didn't allow you officially to be able to observe these elections?
Well, as typical of an authoritarian like Jim Mensah, she hasn't spoken to us, she hasn't gotten back to us, she doesn't just care about what people think about the credibility of the process. However, thankfully, the Judge Case Center belongs to a number of CSO groupings. We are a member of ACGEM, we are a member of the Global Partnership for Prevention of Armed Conflict, West Africa Action Network on Small Arms. We are a member of CSOs against proliferation of small arms and light weapons. We are a member of so many, groupings, and all of these groupings, at least some few, would have accreditation. And once you are a member, you are also entitled. So, thankfully, I have the accreditation. My only issue is with the over 2,000 observers we trained. They are not able to do their work, but we found a way of getting them around to stay away, not in the neck of the wood, to observe and report on what is going on. But it is really disturbing. It is unfortunate that Jean Mensa has taken such a rigid, entrenched stance against, CSOs.
But Adib, why is it important that CSOs like the ones you're part of observe? Why is such a part of the election process? Why is it so important for you to be able to do observation?
Well, CSOs are a function of democracy. They are a function of governance. If you claim to have a democracy without an active CSO space, that's not a democracy. CSOs work very closely with the people. The people trust them. They trust their judgment. If I speak, the Ghanaians listen and trust me more than a politician. That is why we don't play with our credibility. So whatever we see is what we report to the people, okay? And it's all part of the transparency scheme of things, It's all part of building credibility and trust and confidence in the process, all right? So if you are being prevented from seeing, we are not asking for too much, we just want to see what's going on, then surely you are up to no good. Even the media was restricted to 12. They faced a backlash and now they rescinded. Why would you restrict the media from coming out in their numbers to see what is going on? How are you able to detect which media houses qualify to be part of the 12 and which are not? You see, so Jean Mensa, I think, has been engaged in certain antics that is not safe for us. And that is why she needs to be called to order. And that is why we have also not relented in our efforts in ensuring that the right things are done. But this is a woman who does people think. She doesn't care. All she cares about is her masters. They give her the instructions and she listens. And that is the problem. And it shouldn't be the case, my brother, because this is what has been happening for many years before you, Jean Mensa, who came courtesy CSO to become the electoral commissioner. And Senko, for example, they've been monitoring since 2012, they were there 16, 20, and even last Asenov by-election. They were there, and it's headed by General Arnold Quino, who is the first commanding officer of ECOMOG, a statesman. We're following up this thing with him until he passed last Monday. So it is quite unfortunate. What has changed? What do you have to hide? Why are you so scared of CSOs? What's going on?
That's one arm of the whole thing. But then again, yesterday night, there was also a statement from the Ministry of the Interior to close all land borders. I want to pick your thoughts on that, because it's not the first time this has happened, especially in an election year. Was it actually necessary? Was it necessary to close all land borders?
If you've been to any of the border areas, there are Ghanaians working in Togo. They would work and come home to sleep in Ghana, and vice versa. When you go to the northern frontier, there are cows belonging to Ghanaians that stray into Burkina Faso, graze and come back to Ghana. There's no difference when you go there. If you go to Baga and see what's going on, there's no difference. You see? So, when you make it look like we are at war, it becomes a problem. Okay? Fine. You can ensure security. You can ensure that people who are not supposed to be here don't come in. Okay? But my fear is there are some Ghanaians who could be disenfranchised as a result. And that is my challenge. If we are able to improve security, proper security.
So the ministry says that it's doing this to ensure the integrity of the elections. You don't think that's justified enough to have land borders closed?
Yes. I mean, it's been the practice for some time now. But what I'm saying is, practice doesn't mean it's the right thing. Oblivion of whichever part of the political divide is in power. I think we need to relook at it and see how we can improve the security rather than just completely, shutting it down. Because there are Ghanaians working in neighboring countries who are supposed to come back home to vote on election day and go back. In fact, there are Ghanaians who have their farms in Togo and Burkina Faso, you know. So it's really concerning.
But how do we improve the general security around the elections? What do we do?
Sorry? Hello? Hello?
Hello, Adib, did you hear my question? I was asking how do we improve the general security, especially for this election? How do we improve that?
Intelligence is key. Credibility in the process is the most important thing. When people trust that you are fair, you are neutral, trust me, they would go to sleep. But when people are saying we vote, we'll stay and ensure the right thing is that, it means they don't trust you. And what has happened in Yendi is what is brewing all of these mistrusts. I think it's unfortunate. Meanwhile, I'm just about to move to some polling stations, so if you permit me, but keep in touch because I'll be updating you on what is going on. I have eyes and ears everywhere, and I wouldn't hesitate sharing the information with you.
All right. Adib, thank you very much. Thank you for speaking with us. We'll come back to you much later. That's Adib Sani. Adib Sani is a security analyst. He is with the Jatike Center for Security. And, well, he's given us an update, some situational reports on what's happening around where he is. He's at Yendi, as well as some other places that he's visited. Guys, so
he says he has eyes and ears
everywhere. He's
ready
got
to update. But what I find a bit serious is that 1,210 ballot papers missing in police custody.
Yes.
Like, how do you defend this? How do you explain this?
He was actually in the armory.
So how would they explain this?
Well, that's why he wants investigations to go into this. Because you see, even though the major players have signed to allow the process to go on, Adib wants this investigated, and I believe that would be the right thing. How is it that materials in the possession of the police, these are in armories, and he mentions that the bags in which these papers were in have actually been damaged? How did that happen? Because the armory is supposed to be the most secure place for these materials, especially within this time. So how do these things get damaged? And then the materials, 1,210, where are they? Before we know it, these papers will be back into the ballot box. What's happening? It's quite concerning.
We hope that the investigations are carried out and the findings are made known to the public.
I was looking to ask him what other alternatives we could have to this land closure thing.
Yes, and before, let me read the statement from the Ministry of Interior that was released yesterday. It says the Ministry of Interior has ordered the temporary closure of the land borders as part of measures to ensure the integrity of December 7 general elections. This temporal closure is with immediate effect and ends at 6 p.m. on Sunday, December 8, 2024. The ministry urges all citizens and travelers to and fro Ghana to cooperate with state security agencies enforcing this directive. And to a large extent, I would agree with what Adib said. I am looking at the level of inconvenience that this could create for some Ghanaians who are outside Ghana. They are in Togo, Burkina, and they were hoping to come to the country today to cast their ballot. I'm also looking at the economic effects. I mean, there are traders. People go and do some other things to earn income and all of that. Of course, we are not saying that we should compromise the security of the country for any of these, but I don't know the intelligence that they have picked, but I do not think that this was the best way to go, especially when there is the possibility of some
go ahead and vote. And I'm not sure we can get a foreigner coming in to come and join the queue that I'm ready to cast.
If we are following...
If we're following due procedure. Because when you get there, they'll have to verify you first before you vote.
Exactly.
So closing the border now, as you said, there are businessmen and women going out, the traders. You go on Friday hoping to return quickly, only for you to get to the border. And you can't cross.
You see, people don't know the situation or don't understand this, especially the border one there.
When you are stranded.
See, let me give you a fair idea. Maybe people don't know how the Ghana-Togo border is. It's not like any other border. And I might be wrong, but there are only 2 situations like that in the world where Ghana and Togo have their borders just leading into their capitals. The same thing is with Geneva. If you're crossing the border, immediately you cross the border, you enter Geneva in Switzerland. It's the border is the capital city. The same thing for Togo. Immediately you cross, you enter Lomé. Lomé is the border. Now people don't understand how it is. It's like we're in East Legon. In fact, it's just like moving from here to Ajingano. The next town, that is how it is. There's no situation of a land that even separates you to say that, okay, you've moved a little land. It's the same road that is cut through.
The same road,
So the situation with especially the Aflao to Lomé side of the border, that is more concerning, especially with this directive from the Ministry of the Interior, is that people work across 2 countries.
It's true.
They live across 2 countries. In fact, some people eat in one country and come to
sleep in the other country.
That's how the situation is. So it's a very peculiar situation that I think the ministry or the government, I must say, could have found a nicer way of handling than closing borders. If this was going to happen, then it should have come much earlier. This statement came This statement came in yesterday. After 6 p.m. After 6 p.m. or around 6 p.m. And they said with immediate
effect. So
it meant that
if you make you make a mistake and you cross, by the time you decide to return, they have closed the border, and there is no way you can come in.
And I don't think that they've been fair with this statement, because you see, you could have actually announced, and this thing happened in 2020 as well, the same situation. 2020 coupled with COVID, the borders were closed. And I mean, it was one of the major issues. It was chaotic. There were back and forths and things like that. But you could have sent this thing out so that you don't make people read too much into this. Now, there are many questions around why this is, and go on social media, people just feel that it's a way for the ministry or the government to actually deny people the right to vote. And again, remember, this is affecting a place like the Volta region.
We've had
So we've had discussions and incidences in the past where even along the process of along the time to get into today, even ballot papers, all kinds of things, printing and things like that were happening there. It goes back to the question of integrity. What's the EC? Does the EC actually realize that this could be unrelated? But how much of an unrelated situation could be happening so continuously like this? So much that you are now issuing statements to close borders after 6 p.m., few hours to post, and you are expecting that people just, and you state that they should what? They urges all citizens and travelers to cooperate. How do you cooperate? I'm in transit. I'm moving between one country to the other, and that's how I things are always with me. Now you want me to cooperate when you just close borders without any prior announcement? Because if they had said this a few hours or maybe a day before, people would have properly planned and said that, okay, I would decide to move early and come. Because if it's actually going to happen between that time and then Sunday evening, that's fine. But you don't tell us early. I don't think this is a very fair thing. And well, it's already been decided. There's really nothing that they can do about this. And so it's quite worrying. I'll say it again and again that I think that they could have found a nicer way around this. Maybe announce it much earlier. Let's know earlier than this time where you send out a statement of this nature. You send it at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
And yeah, it's just worrying. People will say it's authoritarian because, well, did they even confer? Did they speak to the political parties? Why wouldn't the political parties have a say in such a thing? Who came up with this decision? It's signed by the Minister of the Interior. That's Henry Korte. He's an MP for the MP for Ayawaso Central. Imagine. That has been gotten, and for which reason they had to.
No, but obviously you will not get details.
Nobody will share with us.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we can. That's why we can sit here and then we can all run around theories around why or not. But I'm asking, if he was the MP for any of these two areas, would he have? I think that sometimes a lot of these things they fuel, like Patricia was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The fears, the anxieties. Why do we have to be worried about such a situation? If this could have been done more openly, tell us ahead of time that you're closing the borders 2 days to the elections. Let people have ample time to be able to make a decision on whether or not they are interested in coming to vote or not.
It was too impromptu.
So it's quite a worrying situation.
Right. So you're still watching Election Desk on GhanaWeb TV. It's our comprehensive coverage of the 2024 elections. So where Ghana goes to the polls, and we've been receiving updates from some of our reporters who are at some polling stations and all that. You've seen the presence of Goodluck Jonathan, who happens to be the former president of Nigeria, together with some other former presidents in Africa, gracing the occasion and here to observe. I've also seen pictures of the British High Commissioner to Ghana also observing the elections at one of the polling stations. I'll give you details later, but now we want to know what people are saying on social media, and Patricia will do us the honors.
Okay, so some messages coming through from X. So this one. Also, flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, cast his vote in Wale
Constituency.
Yeah, and then he spoke to the media, and someone is saying, EKB Jr. is saying, Ghanaians are voting for change for our second independence. That's Ghana versus NPP, and then he tags it #Ghana versus NPP, and then Black. Okay, it says an elderly woman, likely in her 80s, was escorted by her granddaughter to cast her ballot at Ejumako.
That's actually profound. I mean, to have a woman as old as 80. How did he guess the age though? They spoke to her?
I think they spoke to her,
okay.
And she expressed her excitement in exercising
she wants
her
the
right
best,
to vote.
the best for her grandchild.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was her granddaughter who even accompanied her to go and vote.
It's just like was it 83 or 70-something-year-old one who joined one of the demonstrations? Yeah.
Okay, so this is Ayawaso West Wugon Polling Center receives materials and set up. Okay, and a first-time voter. Hey, we haven't really spoken about the
first-time voters.
Yeah,
quite a number of them.
Yeah,
they call them the free SHS babies.
Oh, really?
Majority of them, I mean, are from the crop of the free SHS. They call them free SHS babies. So they're also there.
Actually, their first time having to be part of such an important exercise. Hopefully they vote based on,
they vote the right way.
The right way. I mean, there are a number of dynamics, and that's the conversation that we'll be having later on. the dynamics of Ghana's election, the voting pattern, and all of those. Then you get to know the people that vote based on policies, based on affiliations, based on people have some weird reasons for voting. There was a time I was somewhere, and there was this person who was saying that, oh, this MP, and you know what? What the MP did was that he went to the lorry station and gathered all the drivers, took their details, those of them who didn't have driver's license, and he got them. He facilitated, let me say. So he says, you will be there and then they will call you. And they will pick you up, take you to the DVLA, and you go through the process of receiving the license the right way. It's not like they are cutting corners. And the man pays for the services. And for that alone, he's going to vote for him.
So someone saying that someone is actually angry with Isaac Adongo for failing to provide transportation for her, and others to go and vote.
They are not supposed to. They are not obliged. I think it's just a gesture.
Maybe they had an agreement.
Yeah. He promised them. Okay, so maybe people in this area, I'm going to pay for your transport and take you to, like the way they bus them during campaign. I believe it's the same way. Maybe they might have promised them that
possibly
we'll
take you. Told that, look, just get there. I'll sort out your lorry fare. And I saw a friend on Facebook actually doing that. He lives in the US now, but he made time to send people monies to be able to travel because they said they couldn't travel. And when you were mentioning earlier about reasons people have decided not to vote, some of the reasons is that some of them have to travel far. They were not able to transfer.
They were not able to transfer.
So, and then the bit about whether they have the means to be able to travel just to go and cast their votes and come back. So this friend of mine,
all these will impact on the results.
Yes. So it's all there. I mean, so like the lady, maybe she had an agreement with Adongo that I'm going to cast my vote, but you sort out my transportation. We are not encouraging it. To be
exactly
fair. We are not encouraging it, but I mean, if she's lamenting that she didn't get.
Talking about the means of transportation, I mean, yesterday I saw a very long queue at some of these transport operating services.
People are traveling to go
and cast their ballots. And I don't know how or why they couldn't transfer their votes. Because around this time, it's actually
easier.
Yes, if you had transferred it. But to wait, and you want to, probably they want a certain MP to win. I mean, if it's left with the presidency, you can vote anywhere when you transfer. But if, let's say, Eche is running for MP seats at Ketu South and I happen to be a registered voter there, and I have a relationship with Eche, I could decide not to transfer my vote.
You want to rather travel
just go
there.
and go and vote. So it could be one of the reasons. You never know. Yes.
I'm just before she comes in, I'm just seeing that there's a report about some military presence at Wager.
Oh, really? I thought there was a statement that.
Well, yeah, and I see a photograph of some of the military people. So, well, until we confirm, but it's actually. So.
Okay. So before that, our reporter Elsie Lama is also on the ground, and she has Sofu Chabosom, who is the leader of whom. In fact, that's the political party that pulled a surprise in the 2020 elections. Hello, Elsie, can you hear us? What can you report? Hello, Elsie. Elsie.